War I began in 1914 after the assassination of Austria-Hungary's Archduke Franz Ferdinand. This then led to many other countries declaring war on each other. Some of the countries that made up the Allied powers were Russia, France, Great Britain, Italy, the United States, Japan, and Serbia, while the Central Powers consisted of Germany, Austria-Hungary, Turkey, and Bulgaria. During the war, battle began to take form of what is known as trench warfare. Due to the evolution of the machine gun and precision-firing small arms, the former method of using soldiers on foot or on horseback was no longer effective. This led generals to tell their men to dig these trenches so that they could try to hold position. Both sides created multiple lines of trenches so that soldiers could retreat if the front line was overrun or destroyed. They were also built in zigzag patterns in order to avoid an entire line being taken out by a single shell attack. One of the main pieces of World War I technology was the machine gun. Although it was invented before World War I, it really took off and became popular around the time of the war. In 1914, there were only around 12,000 machine guns, but that number rapidly increased to around 100,000 in a very short period of time. Some of the developments that came with the machine guns were barrage fire invented by the British in 1916 and some elite sharpshooting attachments developed by the Germans in 1917. Also, the Germans claimed that about 90% of their small arms were made up of machine guns. One of the problems with trench warfare was that it caused a stalemate. The introduction of the tank into World War I is what eventually helped end this. Tanks made their first appearance at the Battle of Flares-Courcelette in September of 1916. The British sent about 49 of them into battle to try and catch the Germans off guard. Although they were effective, the initial design did have some issues. They were not very mobile and could not exceed 4 miles per hour. This led to a more effective tank called the Renault FT-17 being developed. This tank was created to be lighter and more maneuverable and was even equipped with a rotating turret on top. This tank was considered the best and most efficient tank of the war and even saw some service in World War II. This tank was invented by French General Jean-Baptiste Estienne and saw service in the Second Battle of Marne. The Second Battle of the Marne was a very important battle that marked the final German offensive of the war. The Germans planned to attack the British and French in order to split them up and gain control of ports, but their attempts were countered by the Allies. Some of the tactics that the Allies used were creating a false front line that was barely manned in order to trick the Germans into unleashing a barrage on an empty trench. This tactic worked, and when the Germans came upon the front line, the Allies unleashed a counterattack on them which crippled the German army. There were other things that were also essential to the Allies' victory. The entry of fresh American soldiers into the war provided them with fresh bodies and more manpower, something that the Germans lacked. This provided the Allies with an extra push. Also, the Renault FT was nothing like anything ever seen before in battle. The developments made to it made it difficult to defend against in battle. Although the Germans would eventually develop some armor-piercing artillery, it was not enough to stop these tanks from doing major damage. This victory was major because it showed that the war might finally be coming to an end. In conclusion, the Second Battle of the Marne proved to be a major turning point in the war. It shut down the final German offensive and displayed the power that the Allies had. The combination of American help and new technology allowed for this victory to take place. With the absence of those two things, the outcome of this battle could have been altered, which may have completely altered the world that we live in today.